Hey guys! Today we'll be covering a 2022 romance film called My Chilling Roommate. The movie begins with a little girl named young Suri who arrives at her father's multi-million-dollar company. She is about to enter the lift when she notices a deceased woman inside, which freaks her out. Just then, the spirit of the dead lady grabs her from behind. Meanwhile, a grown-up Suri abruptly awakens, indicating that it was merely a reoccurring dream. But surprisingly, she can still communicate with ghosts. This becomes evident when a spirit comes to greet her good morning. In the next scene, Suri goes to her workplace, which is a cafe owned by her friend Huang. Huang knows everything about Suri and her supernatural ability. Later in the cafe, Suri notices a male ghost who is waiting for his partner. However, he is oblivious to the fact that he is dead. Taken aback, Suri informs Huang about the strange occurrence. She assumes that the man has returned there for a purpose, as ghosts return to the world in order to accomplish their unfulfilled goals. Outside the cafe, we are introduced to a man named Yi Chan, who witnesses an ambulance transporting a body. Elsewhere, a group of board members of a large company, KS Group, are discussing the company's sales. The company's managing director, Yi Seok, asks the members if they have found the head of the sales department, Yi Chan, who has been missing for a few days. Yi Seok appears to be upset that their sales are declining and orders the members to locate Yi Chan as soon as possible. Later, the chairman of KS Group meets with his nephew, Yi Yoon, who is also a managing director of the company, just like her brother, Yi Seok. The chairman appears concerned because his son Yi Chan has gone missing. Hearing his woes, Yi Seok comforts him by saying that she will do everything she can to find his son. Back at the cafe, the male ghost notices his girlfriend sitting in front of him, but she is unable to see him. After waiting for some time, the girl departs and the male ghost is powerless to stop her. Seeing this, Suri approaches the male ghost and informs him that he is dead. Later, as Suri is busy with her work, a spirit suddenly lunges at her. But before she can be harmed, Yi Chan arrives in the nick of time, saving her. The spirit then disappears into thin air, shocking Yi Chan. Here we learn that Yi Chan is unaware of his death. Suri informs him that he has become a spirit, but Yi Chan thinks that she is joking and walks out of the cafe. While walking across the street, he bumps into a couple and immediately apologizes. But to his surprise, they don't hear him. With this, he realizes that Suri was telling the truth. It is also revealed that the dead body being transported by the ambulance earlier belonged to Yi Chan. With this revelation, he returns to the cafe and asks Suri about how he can become visible to others. However, Suri is unable to assist him and requests that he leave. Despite this, Yi Chan follows her to her house because she is the only one who can see and speak to him. Suri tells him to leave, but he persuades her to let him stay because he has nowhere to go and doesn't remember anything about his past. Furthermore, he assures her that he will not harm her. Before walking inside her room, Suri tells him that he will regret staying at her house. A few moments later, he notices several ghosts staring at him, which scares him. He also has nightmares about terrifying evil ghosts with no eyeballs. The next morning, Yi Chan wakes up to find 3 good ghosts, Granny, Lee, and Uni. Yi Chan is perplexed by what is going on and walks out of the room in search of Suri. Soon after, he notices that the house is in disarray and that Suri is sleeping on the couch. He then realizes that Suri deals with the ghosts on a daily basis. Just then, the 3 good ghosts approach him again, and during their conversation, Yi Chan shares about the evil ghost with no eyeballs. This concerns Granny, and she starts questioning him further about it. During their conversation, Yi Chan is suddenly unable to hear Granny, and as a result, he walks out. After this, Suri, who is overhearing the entire conversation, approaches Granny and informs her that the evil ghost with no eyeballs has indeed reappeared. Later, Suri takes Yi Chan to the location where he died and asks him if he remembers anything. Surprisingly, he is once again unable to hear. Just then, Granny arrives at the scene and pushes Yi Chan, causing him to enter another person's body. Here we learn that Yi Chan's spirit has the ability to possess anybody's body for a limited time. After a few moments, he returns to his ghost state, and now he is able to hear. When a confused Yi Chan asks about what is happening to him, Granny reveals that it is a common occurrence for spirits who have recently separated from their bodies. In the evening, when Suri and Yi Chan are hanging out in a park, the latter starts feeling hot. Taken aback, she hits him, causing him to shout in pain. With this, Suri deduces that Yi Chan is still alive because ghosts don't feel pain or heat. She tries explaining everything to him, but as usual, Yi Chan cannot hear a word. The next day, Yi Yoon and her assistant arrive at the cafe to ask about Yi Chan, but Huang speaks rudely, forcing the 2 to leave. As soon as they leave, Suri tells Yi Chan to come out before she counts to 3. Surprisingly, he emerges from Huang's body, indicating that he was controlling her. After Huang goes to another room to take a rest, Suri yells at Yi Chan for being careless. She mentions that spirits should not mess around with living humans and make their lives miserable. Expectedly, the outburst makes Yi-chan sad, and he walks out of the cafe. A little while later, Granny approaches Suri and shows her a gift from Yi-chan for her birthday. This makes her emotional, and she regrets yelling at him. Later, Suri meets Yi-chan at a park and begins chatting. During the conversation, Yi-chan reveals that he discovered Suri's birthday while possessing Huang's body and decided to give her a gift. He also mentions that it would have been nice if they had met before his death. Suri reiterates that he may not have died, and upon hearing this, he tries to recall his past. After a bit of thinking, he recalls a syringe and being injected with something, then being pushed in front of a car. Meanwhile, Yi-yun meets her brother and asks if he has tracked down Yi-chan. Surprisingly, instead of giving a proper answer, Yi-seok mentions that he doesn't care. Yi-yun tries to make him understand that Yi-chan is a very important member of the company, but Yi-seok simply scoffs and walks away. In the following scene, Yi-chan is sitting in the park alone when Suri approaches him. He recounts the accident, but he still can't remember everything from his past. Suri consoles him by saying that sometimes it's best not to recall the past. She then reveals her past, where her father's company went bankrupt due to the betrayal of a trusted friend, and as a result, her parents took their own lives. Since then, she has been seeing ghosts. She says that she remembers the incident vividly, despite her desires to avoid recalling it. After learning this, Yi-chan supports her and curses her father's fraudulent friend, making her feel better. At night, Suri searches for Yi-chan, but is unable to locate him. While searching for him, she is attacked by the evil ghost with no eyeballs. The ghost appears to be attempting to take over Suri's body, but just then, Yi-chan arrives and saves her. Despite this, Suri loses consciousness as her body temperature has plummeted. Later, we can see Suri resting on her bed while Yi-chan and Granny discuss the matter. Granny reveals that a person's temperature drops when a ghost is unable to possess a body. Yi-chan then stays by her side and keeps looking at her lovingly. A couple of days later, Suri wakes up and notices the three good ghosts in front of her. She asks about what happened to her, but Granny doesn't reveal anything. Suri then notices Yi-chan, who is sleeping on the floor. She asks about him, and Granny responds that he has been protecting her for 2 days and has only recently fallen asleep. Elsewhere, Yi-yun receives a phone call from her assistant informing her that they have located Yi-chan at the hospital. Wasting no time, she rushes to the hospital, where she discovers Yi-chan in a coma. The doctor assures her that they will do everything possible to save his life. But when she walks out, Yi-yun slaps her assistant for failing to kill Yi-chan. Here, it is revealed that Yi-yun is the one who plotted to murder her own cousin. Later, Granny and Uni arrive at the hospital, and the latter possesses one of the staff's bodies to check on the status of Yi-chan. In the next scene, Yi-yun is alone in her apartment when she is haunted by the same evil ghost with no eyeballs. The ghost tells Yi-yun to allow her to possess her body in exchange for what she desires. When Yi-yun hears this, she lets out an evil laugh. The next day, she goes to Yi-seok and threatens to transfer all of his company's stocks to her within a week. Yi-seok is skeptical that someone is forcing her to do so, and as a result, he hires a spy to follow her. However, when Yi-yun realizes this, she immediately kills the spy. On the other hand, the three good goats learn everything about Yi-chan and share it with Suri. Granny reveals that Yi-chan is the youngest of the Chaos Group, which is the same company that illegally acquired Suri's father's company. Yi-chan's father is revealed to be the one who backstabbed Suri's father, causing their company to go bankrupt. Furthermore, Granny believes Yi-chan possesses exorcising power, which enables him to capture evil spirits. However, she is skeptical that Yi-chan will be able to defeat the evil spirits. According to Granny, if Yi-chan loses, he will vanish forever. After saying all this, she hands Suri a spirit box that can entrap any spirit. She also advises her to open it in the worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Yi-chan overhears the entire conversation from behind the bush. At the office, Yi-seok and his assistant Kong are attempting to contact the spy, but Yi-yun enters his cabin with the spy's phone. She then commands the spirit to possess Kong and kill Yi-seok. As Kong is about to finish off Yi-seok, Yi-chan appears out of nowhere and begins fighting the spirit. After a bit of back and forth, the spirit transfers to Yi-yun, and the brother-sister duo begin battling it out. Both appear to be equally strong, but when Yi-yun is hurt, she flees the office. Then, Yi-chan arrives at the cafe, and as soon as he sees Suri, he collapses to the ground. Later, he wakes up to the good ghosts and Suri, who asks him what happened. However, Yi-chan does not reveal anything to her and pretends to be fine. That night, he enters Suri's room and sits beside her. He assures her that he will reclaim her father's business, as well as all of the smiles and happiness. He also expresses gratitude to her for everything she has done for him. Suri, who pretends to be sleeping, hears everything he says. The next morning, Yi-chan takes over Hwang's body and surprises Suri with a delicious breakfast. A few moments later, Suri is approached by the male ghost from the opening scene, who informs her that someone is waiting for her outside. When she walks outside of the cafe, some men kidnap her. As soon as he notices this, Yi-chan runs after the kidnapper's van, but he is unable to stop them. Following that, he uses Hwang's phone to locate Suri and heads there, accompanied by the three good ghosts. Meanwhile, Suri regains consciousness and finds herself apprehended by Ye-yun. Ye-yun reveals that she always wanted to get rid of Yi-chan, and now she is using Suri as bait to get him. As per her plan, Yi-chan arrives, and the two engage in an intense fight. During the tussle, Yi-chan unties Suri and retrieves the spirit box from her. He then opens the box, which sucks all the spirits inside it. After a while, when Suri wakes up, she notices that all the good ghosts in Yi-chan have vanished. Devastated, she grabs the spirit box and starts crying. Cut to 3 months later, Suri is back at work and she no longer sees any ghosts. As she is busy with her work, the three good ghosts watch her for a while and disappear after a final goodbye. Later, Yi-chan arrives at the cafe with some coffee beans, indicating that he is still alive. Sadly, he has no recollection of his interactions with Suri. When she keeps staring at him, Yi-chan asks if she knows him, to which she replies, "Very well."